Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Art of the Beholder, a show dedicated to all things eclectic in the world of art, where we do deep dives into deep cuts and help you understand why damn things matter. I'm your host, Novo, and today we're going to be talking about art and music, focusing on the career of Esperanza Spalding. Today, of course, I am joined by the only jazz composition you will ever need in your life, and that is with Mr. Theodore Buck. Buck, welcome as always.
Well, we just had some meteorological jazz come through here.
And yes, if you don't know who Esperanza Spalding is, we're saying things. I made my jazz intro for Buck, or I mentioned jazz, and he did the same thing because Esperanza Spalding is a jazz musician. And perhaps, I have a very basic thesis for you, perhaps one of the greatest living musicians we have today, and arguably the youngest, though she's relatively, that's arguable now. She's in her 30s, and when we first stumbled upon her, she was in her early 20s and considered one of the greatest living musicians alive at that time. Though she would probably say, if she heard this right now, if we're doing an interview with her, she would hate this. She would say, she's very humble. From everything I've read about her, she's incredibly humble. Just humility oozes off her, and she does not like that level of prestige. But she really deserves it. And before we can really talk about her career, of course, we need a little background. So Esperanza Spalding is, as I said, an American jazz bassist, but she's also a singer, a songwriter, and a composer. This woman does everything. She was born Esperanza Emily Spalding on October 18th, 1984 in Portland, Oregon. Her first instrument was actually the violin, and she already started to show that she was a master of musical craft, because by the time she was 5, she had learned to play the violin and began performing professionally, mind you, with the Chamber Music Society of Oregon. And she actually remained in the group until she was 15 and left as what is known as a concert master. Incredibly impressive. She later expanded into the oboe, the clarinet, and then, of course, where a lot of our discussions begin, she landed on the guitar, and specifically the bass guitar, starting with the double bass, as a lot of jazz musicians do.
You don't hear much about the oboe. Why is that?
The oboe doesn't get a lot of love.
It doesn't get a lot of love, and I love the oboe. Why don't more concert bands, like why are more?
We're gonna do a whole episode on the
grade
oboe now.
Schools, teach the oboe.
And well, they do. They just, well, obviously, it doesn't get a lot of
small
spotlight.
town, middle of nowhere doesn't. I mean, I think we were just pulling stuff out of the closet and making sure it actually made a noise.
Yes. She began performing live in clubs as a teenager with the bass. And she actually was a part of a band that was called Noise for Pretend. That obviously didn't work out. And she went on to just study music the more traditional route. So she first went to the Portland State University, where she of course studied music for a while, and then she could transition to something what I would consider a breakthrough in her career, and that is when she went to the Berklee College of Music. And she eventually, what's very notable here is that after she went through her tenure and everything like that, she was actually asked to become an instructor at this particular college, and she was famously the youngest instructor ever at Berklee College of Music at the age of 20.
It's very impressive. And
Jesus Christ, impressive, man.
If you know anything about Berklee School of Music, and
they're strict.
Their
strict. Standards are out of the world.
Yeah. Have that on your resume. And when we started kind of looking into her too, when I remember when you said, she's an instructor at Berklee, I was like, no, she can't be. But yeah, it happened, folks. She was.
Exactly. And my God, has she had an incredible career ever since. And this is where we can really start talking about her career. This is where we're going to get into the meat of the discussion. So, and of course, we always do this by going through the art, focusing in this case on her music. So in 2006, she came out with the album Junjo. Now, Junjo was a traditional jazz trio piece, and of just the classic jazz outputs that she's done, this is probably one of my favorite, honestly.
I think she only wrote a couple of songs actually, though, in it.
Yes, all
Yeah.
the research I did showed that she definitely considers this a group effort.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people would argue that, well, her name is on the album, so there's a lot of misconceptions that she was the one that did the lead writing and compositional work on the album. Now, this was really, as I put it, a group effort, and you can hear that in the piece compared to her pretty much from Esperanza on. So 2008, this is her second LP. That was much more of a singer-songwriter focus, whereas Junjo was an incredible jazz adventure, if you will.
And she doesn't really, I think only maybe a couple of songs does she actually sing lyrics. She mostly does scat.
Let's really dive into the album.
Yeah.
So Junjo 2006 is it's basically just drums, bass, and keys, as most trios are. But what really is an extra piece of the puzzle is her incredible vocal. So yeah, she is scatting. She really, really approaches it like a musician or like a musical instrument. And she is scatting, she is soloing, she is just moving through notes and making sure it's harmonizing with the music, and is an integral piece of the music as well.
Channeling her in a inner Ella Fitzgerald. You could see why I messed that up because I was thinking Ella. But I mean,
Sure.
and we always remember Ella Fitzgerald for her songs and singing, but she was considered one of the great jazz. I don't know what the official term for it is, but her scat and jazz was just really well known throughout. And like you said, I think this is like a textbook jazz trio album.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty straightforward, and I could see this as being like a first attempt, especially for an album, like especially when you're coming out of where she was coming from.
Sure.
This seems pretty obvious and straightforward.
And well, and there's a lot of improv, like a lot of jazz records of yesteryear, of history. There's a lot of improv here, and it's very clear in the soloing and the compositional work. But you can tell that it's clear that they stopped, and I don't think they probably wrote things down, like they transcribed them out or anything like that, but you can tell they probably talked out sections and things like that, especially when things are repeating motifs that we're very used to in more popular music versus jazz, where jazz is almost every few bars, sometimes every bar, it's completely different series of notes, and it can be very abstract to a first-time listener or someone that just doesn't listen to jazz much. Whereas I've listened to so much jazz over time, I can tell just from listening to it that there's definitely some written out sections that they really gave some mind to make them work.
I mean, if you listen to it too, even the production value it's a little raw. Like I was going back and singing it.
I love it though. I think it captures what we're missing in a lot of popular music, which is clear live instrumentation.
Yeah, and what I was meaning with that is there's nothing special about it. It's just it's a straight recording. Maybe some levels of instruments are pushed up a little bit.
There's still mixing. Yeah,
there's still some mixing. But I would say overall, it's like what you would do if this was your first attempt. You kind of I would say it's bare bones for the most part, but it's simple, and that's what's nice about it.
Simple but tasteful and effective.
And I think I believe she did or was up for some a Grammy after this.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. We will definitely touch on her award-winning kind of legacy as we kind of expand into her career. I definitely, before we move on to the second LP, Esperanza in 2008, I still want to touch on the fact that, there's something about more modern jazz. So this was made 15 years ago, but there's still something about modern jazz that has a strong groove to it.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
clear influences of hip hop, funk, R&B going on with the compositions that you just wouldn't see in the originators of jazz. The jazz of the 60s and 70s, and even a little before that. Like I said, we're a little more abstract and a little more. They're kind of figuring things out. They're figuring out the sound, where this one is clearly established sounds, and you can hear a lot of the influences in the musicians' musicianship in their work, down to every single musician.
Yeah, I hadn't listened to this in a long time, and it was kind of pleasant just to like sit down and listen to a straight jazz album in a while, because a lot of stuff I've been listening to lately, jazz related, has been a lot of fusion and modern, and nothing's wrong with that, but I don't know. It's always kind of it's like you've been drinking a lot of sour beers, or kind of some hoppy IPAs. It's nice to go back down to a classic Pilsner or something,
or a
like
lager,
that, or lager.
fucking man.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect segue to kind of evolve into how she changed as a musician and the outputs that she wanted to focus on, and that brings us to the second LP, 2008's Esperanza. Now, I think this is very fitting because we're seeing a transition from, as we put it, more of a traditional, straightforward jazz album into more of a singer-songwriter kind of approach, where she's not just scatting or doing harmonies or just doing just jazzy soloing with their vocals. She's singing songs. They're structured out, they're pieced well, they're arranged well. We're still seeing a lot of that jazz influence, but you're seeing more emphasis on structure, songwriting, but also still seeing those influences of hip hop, R&B, funk, and of course a lot of great fucking jazz.
It's the album that I actually discovered her on. This is how I discovered her.
We need to tell the story. So this is the fun part where we get to tell the stories of how we stumbled upon Miss Esperanza Spalding. I'm going to give Buck the floor first.
Yeah, so it was late at night. No. It was
in a world.
We were in, I believe, a senior in college. Mm-hmm. I was with the lady I was dating at the time, and she had David Letterman on in the background. I think we were doing homework or something like that. And all of a sudden I hear Letterman introduce jazz vocalist and performer. And immediately when I heard the first few bars, I turned and looked at the TV, and I was just like, wow. And I listened to her song. It was Precious is the title of the song, and it's one of those few times where you watch something, like, not even you can watch something live, or you see something or you hear something and you're just blown away by it.
Hell yeah.
This was definitely one of those moments in my life where I was just like,
boom.
What?
Yeah.
And I think I told you immediately about it.
Yeah.
The next day.
Well, what's crazy with my story is, get this shit. I don't think you know what? I don't think I've ever told you this, Buck.
I don't think you have.
So, when we were in college at about the same time, I was a senior as well. I started taking elective music courses, just to fill up what I needed to get my degree. Or to get my diploma.
You could have done that. My degree was
you didn't have that luxury.
Take another math class, because you're already getting a math minor, and just okay. I had one elective. Elective.
Now don't get too bitter. We'll go on a long tangent quarter of him giving hell, and then he's gonna feed that over to little Jimmy Buffett hate. I know that's
what I don't do that. I have never brought him up once in this show.
That's true. He's never brought him up ever. So, but anyway,
Jimmy, no.
no, we'll save that to the gems. So I was taking music of Latin America, and we were on the subject of bossa nova. I fucking love me some bossa nova,
Yeah.
Gilberto all day, man. The girl from Ipanema, all that shit. I love it. All right. Now, the teacher gave us a little special treat by bringing in a live musician that was touring. And this live musician was not Esperanza. That would have been amazing.
I remember this now.
This live musician was not Esperanza Spalding, but her guitar player.
Yeah.
Her guitar player was the special guest for my class. And he's this very humble guy from Latin America. And I'll never forget him playing. And he's one of those players that made it sound so easy, you know, and you can tell he's doing like very complicated bossa nova guitar work. Like, so this is classical guitar we're talking about, acoustic things of that nature. And he told us about him touring and his current touring gig right now. And that's when he told us, the whole class, about Esperanza Spalding. And I remember going out pretty much that day and checking out this album, Esperanza, and feeling about the same way that Buck felt. I remember hearing probably almost right away, I would say probably by the second track, which is the most famous track.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, like boom. It was immediate. I was like just fucking floored. And then soon after, this happens a lot with me and Buck. Me and Buck will find something before we actually talk to each other about it. And then we'll just shoot the shit, just like go on a complete nerd out about the fact that we discovered this person at the same time. And soon after, we had the pleasure of seeing her live.
Going back to that Letterman scene real quick, Letterman was like blown away as well and was like saying, wow. And if you see the performance on YouTube or something, he kisses her hand and then she pulls his hand and kisses it back. Yeah. And you could automatically tell she's different. Cooler than the other side of the pillow. Yeah. She's very cool. And so, we found out that she was performing in
KC
in Kansas City. So we took the trek down to I remember us getting
a road trip,
getting a little lost in a bad neighborhood, and we both
that was part of the fun.
But we saw her in a very beautiful venue, opera house.
Oh my God.
In Kansas City.
Christ.
Kansas City actually has some very nice venues. We've actually been to a few concerts. I would say they're better venues. That one and the Starlight. It was a great night. She came out. I was blown away, and she was an amazing performer. It was a great time. It was one of those concerts that just kind of flew by too.
Yeah, it was a mix of her Junjo work and Esperanza work.
Yep.
So I remember, this is what really I remember capturing this feeling of, she started with double bass and they were doing like, instrumental jazz tracks.
Yep.
And I think, didn't we sat, I don't think right next to each other, but like right in front, like one person was right in front of the other person or something like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting seating. We were kind of in, I would say it was like not the orchestra pit, but right in front of it.
And I'll never forget, I don't know if it was like me turning around to look at you. I forgot exactly.
There was a guy in front of us that turned around.
Oh yeah. That's what it was. I remember there was some action like that. For some reason in my memory, I always think that you were doing that to me or I was doing that to you when we tell the story.
No,
but I guess it was a stranger.
There was a stranger in front of us
that just was like gasping. He was so impressed with the musicality.
Yeah, he was so impressed with her. He would turn around, look at us, and just shake his head and go, "Damn!"
Like fuck. Like it was so impressive. Yeah,
you could tell this guy. This is a guy that goes and hangs out on the weekends in the jazz clubs in Kansas City. Like,
and that reminds me to say we were easily the youngest people there. Like
easily
me and
the
Buck
youngest people there. Yeah.
Me and Buck have always been old souls, and this is a perfect example of that. Where other people in their college years were going to, the big popular bands or big arena venues at the time, we were going to the small jazz acts.
Yeah, but Kansas City has an amazing jazz scene, and it has a huge history in jazz.
The Green Lady, man.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the beautiful things about it is that culture there really appreciates and recognizes talent. And that's why I think we both knew when that guy was turning around, and you could tell this was not his first rodeo. He had seen a lot of
Well,
jazz
and this is the
acts.
thing. I remember her killing it on the double bass, but it's hard to really show off on the double bass. So
Yeah.
I feel like it gave a huge dichotomy when she went to the electric.
Well,
So
I know.
I remember her going to the electric, and it was either a Wayne Shorter tune or something. She played something that had a very complicated bass line, and she just pulled it out like it was a walk in the park. It was a breeze.
She plays on a Jaco Pastorius jazz bass, a Fender.
Love me some
that's
Jaco Pastorius.
fretless.
From Weather Report. That's a deep cut. We'll
Yeah,
do it. We're going to do a show on Weather Report. We actually talked about it a few weeks ago, but didn't happen.
Yeah, she plays on a fretless bass, and that's impressive to me. And I think it's an easier transition if you play it on double upright bass. But yeah, when you're in that hand position, and especially like somebody that you're kind of dabbled in the bass. I was immediately impressed when she like blown away again when she switched over to the electric in some of her bass work.
It was spellbinding.
It was and a lot of people, you know, hate on the bass a little bit. But like
well, I feel like non-musicians hate on the bass because what do they say? I can't hear it.
You can't hear it, but it doesn't seem like it's that hard. And a lot of licks that you do in the bass too, it's you know, it's a foundation. It's
yeah, it's a rhythm section.
It's the rhythm section, but
that's what their encore was. Remember that? It was just drum and bass. It was snare and bass.
Yeah.
It was snare, bass, and her vocal, and he was just doing brushes.
Yep.
The very, very last one was the drum, snare with brushes, and her vocal. That was it.
Yeah, but he also played a lot of stuff, if I'm remembering correctly, just on the snare. I remember him just pulling that out and just sitting there. But you know, that's good too, because you know, again, it's going back to the basics. It's going back to the true talent and musicianship.
But it had some contemporary flair because it was a quartet. Yeah. So it was drums, bass, keys, and that guitar player I was telling you about.
Yeah, it's very simple jazz quartet.
Right. Well, I feel like the guitar is often not included. And it's funny because one of my favorite jazz guitarists of all time, and that is Pat Metheny, he actually was the main person that encouraged her to follow her career in music.
Oh, really?
Often
I didn't know
saying, that. Often he said that she had the X factor, you know, that special talent, that unspoken energy. That is just that. It's unspoken. You can't explain how that person has it, but Pat Metheny saw it in her and he encouraged her to continue forward. And that's how we have this amazing career and why we're talking about her today.
It was a fun night. It was one of those, like, as a music nerd, it's one of those that stick out.
Oh man, it's always the small performances that are the best.
Yeah,
not the big arena. I mean, I do like the big arena shows, you know, and sometimes, you know, when they have like these huge, you know, set pieces and pyro and light effects, but sometimes just when someone is a spellbinding musician, for me, that is so much more powerful.
So she's definitely in the top 5.
Oh wow, you say top 5?
Yeah. Just from a pure talent standpoint.
Talent standpoint, absolutely. And we saw that, you know, this is another quintessential subject for our show here because she has such an amazing, even a few years after that Esperanza album dropped, and she still was not quite a household name. And you know, we'll probably talk about this as the conclusion. She's still not a household name, but she, in 2009, she fucking performed for Obama. Yep. By his personal selection.
Yeah.
You know, he could have picked anybody in the world as Barack Obama. And he goes, I want Esperanza Spalding to play for us.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I'm sure.
Fuck.
Yeah. I mean, I think in music circles and Barry, as I like to call him, I think he's been known as being quite.
he's hip. He's got it.
He's a hip dude. Likes his music.
He's hard to impersonate. Yeah,
he is,
but he isn't. Like you make a lot of pauses. Oh, I hear something in the background. What's happening?
It's a background sound. I am sorry. Alexa just automatically just
Alexa.
Going crazy.
Yeah, we could leave that in. Oh, fuck it.
But well, if you say the word, it might set off.
If you say the A
things.
word. Oh,
so she's but thank you, Amazon, for automatically turning on during our podcast here.
Not a sponsor. We're just saying. We're just talking about it.
It did it the other day when I was in the middle of a meeting. It just started playing music.
Well, maybe if it's smart, it will play the 2010s Chamber Music Society. Do you like that
Mhm.
segue? Oh,
Yeah.
fuck yeah. So in 2010, she put her third LP, Chamber Music Society, and it's just that. So this is more of that grassroots traditional jazz record, but with a whole larger ensemble feel. We're seeing a lot of different instrumentation. We're seeing a lot of incredible songwriting. Well, this is more compositional since this is more of a jazz album again.
Yeah.
So she's kind of clearly she did one. I don't even know if she does the pathway of one for me, one for you. It was clearly just she wanted to make a jazz album again, and then she did so. And this was an incredible piece of work, and she got highlighted for that. She won Grammy for Best New Artist. This was the first time a jazz artist won this category ever.
Yeah, and you had a lot of people that didn't really know how to react to that a little bit, because
Still don't know how to react to it.
yeah. I'm going to tell you
People like
straight
that
out.
wouldn't.
This is my favorite Esperanza Spalding album.
Oh,
Um,
mine's probably still Esperanza, that second LP. But
No,
I do want to. I am excited to talk about Emily's De-Evolution in 2016 because it is a striking tangent from her usual songwriting style, and that's a good segue to talk about her style.
Yeah.
She definitely, we talk about this a lot on the show. Musicians have to find their sound, right? They kind of acquire and develop at the same time a sound, a signature sound. And she definitely has this place where she likes to write, what she wants to write about, and how she likes to do it. And if you listen to Junjo all the way to the very end, her current set of work and output, you're going to see that DNA through all of her work. And Chamber Music Society is no different. It's just, like I said, it's bigger, it's brighter, it's a lot more instrumentation. It's the closest thing to probably a full orchestral piece she's ever done. It's Theodore Buck's favorite. I didn't know that, Buck.
I'm a sucker for this type of stuff.
Okay, why? Why? Tell us. Let's put him on the spot, guys.
It's
why?
different. It's I think it's that orchestral quartet sound. I mean, there's a lot.
Well, it's not a quartet. I thought she brought in a lot of different musicians, like violinists and brass, and like it's all over the place.
Yeah, well, and maybe I misspoke there, but yeah, it's I think it's because it kind of has that chamber music feel mixed in with the jazz sound, and I think some of it's a little bit more on the chamber side, some of it's a little bit more on the jazz side. I don't know. I've always been kind of fond of this just because I love chamber music a lot.
I did not know that. Buck.
Yeah, I mean, like Kronos Quartet was a big one.
Oh, Kronos.
Yeah,
Lux Eterna all day.
Still kicking myself for
I saw Kronos.
Thesis.
I saw the Kronos Quartet, and I invited Buck, but he couldn't go. I think I went by myself.
No, you went with my roommate at the time.
Oh, that's right, I did.
Yeah.
No, the one I went by myself with. Here's a jazz drop. I went to in college. I went by myself because I could literally find nobody to go with me. I saw a string quartet rendition to John Coltrane's "A Love Supreme."
When was this?
This was, I want to say, still during, I want to say 06 or 07, kind of the middle of our careers.
Was this like, okay. So
we definitely knew each other. I think you wanted to go, but it was one of those, either you were working or it was a substantial.
Folks, I worked 3 jobs through college and grad school.
He had a rough go, but he made it through the other goddamn side. And you can too, guys. If you're listening. If you're having a hard time, you'll make it through too.
You'll make it through.
Keep plugging. That's the key to it.
No, it was
as soon
just,
as you want to quit.
I was an intense,
gotta keep going.
Very intense program.
And
do I use it at all today? No.
We all feel that way. That class that you'll never use again, but we have to take it. Jesus fucking Christ. So in 2011, she got Jazz Artist of the Year. And then right after that, 2012, she released her 4th LP, and it's gonna sound a lot similar to that third one. This was called Radio Music Society. Instead
Mm-hmm.
of Chamber Music Society, we now have Radio Music Society. So yes, you guessed it. Is it the radio, more pop, contemporary, traditional singer-songwriter side of Esperanza? Abso-fucking-lutely. This is where we're getting more traditional song structure again, but to amazing effect.
Yeah, so interesting album as it is produced by Q-Tip.
I didn't know that.
From
Tribe?
Tribe Called Quest.
Tribe Called
Also
Quest?
His
Love me
also
some
has a
Q-Tip.
great solo.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
You did more research than me. I'm proud of you.
Novo, I know these things. No,
he's got that photographic
I had
memory.
I had to do some a little refresher. You know, it'd been a while
little
since I had listened to this one.
Good.
Some
Okay.
refreshers.
Well, tell us.
So I really like the first half of this album. It reminds me of like late 70s jazz fusion kind of like Earth, Wind and Fire, Maynard Ferguson's type horns. Really like the first half of it, and then I feel like it kind of meanders and dwindles towards the second half. But that first half of it, the first song and the second song, I really got into it when I first listened to it because like I said, that's a real like interesting time and I think in jazz overall is that that kind of period. And then you start seeing a lot of horn sections coming into popular music and rock, like I said, Earth, Wind and Fire, Chicago, all these other bands. And then like I bring up one, Maynard Ferguson, because I felt like he was kind of a big presence in the 70s.
Well, I'm glad you felt that way because a lot of other people felt that way. She won another Grammy for Best Jazz Vocal Album, and she won a Grammy for City of Roses for Best Arrangement, Instrument, and Vocals. And this was the time she was also expanding into more traditional and no pun intended, more radio friendly contemporary acts. She performed with Janelle Monáe on track Dorothy Dandridge Eyes on the Electric Lady, and very, very popular pop singer Bruno Mars on Unorthodox Jukebox. The song is Old and Crazy.
I want you to hold on to that Electric Lady reference.
Okay, hold on to it. Okay, everybody put a pin in that in the back of your head. While you're doing that, I want to talk about the fact that as much as Bruno Mars, I think, gets shit on by us extreme music connoisseurs and lovers,
who
I will say
him?
this. Oh, the real snobs. I feel like we're snobby, but like the true blue, it's Radiohead or nothing kind of snobs.
No, with him I'm a little different.
Well, I was gonna give him some love, so sounds like you're gonna give him some love too. So Bruno Mars, as much as he does, write the top 40 kind of hits, this dude has pipes. This is what I love about Bruno Mars,
and he's very talented. He reminds me of somebody.
He can really sing.
Yeah, and that's the thing is
the vocal range is incredible. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say like. I could see when people hate on him, but I hate on the people that are just there for the good looks and don't really have the, that are fitting the mold. This guy is talented. I mean, he's crazy. Not only his voice, but
he plays drums too.
Oh yeah, but like I know he started out kind of as a backup singer. Like the first one I remember is that I Want to Be a Million or Billionaire or something like that. Brushed him aside, and then it was, I think, his sophomore outing or something like that, when that Don't Believe Me Just Watch or something like that song. Is that the name?
Well, and right now I feel like he is crossing over into more indie stuff because he hooked up with Anderson.Paak. That's, it's funny because when you were talking about that's a perfect reference, because when you're talking about seeing someone on like a late night show like Letterman, I remember and you were just feeling that electricity immediately, like, oh my God, this is amazing. That was the very first time I saw Anderson.Paak, and he was playing drums and singing, and I felt that way. I was like, this is a fucking guy. I have got to follow his career, and I've done it ever since. And Malibu is a little shout out. Malibu is probably my favorite album by him. But yeah, going back to, let's do a pullback, Novo pullback to Esperanza Spalding. Yeah, I mean, she's the point being is she is expanding she is letting those wings spread.
She's starting to get her creative juices flowing,
and she does so well on the next LP. This is 2016's Emily's De-Evolution. And this is where she goes fucking rock.
She does rock. She does metal. No,
it's funk rock.
That's funk
metal.
rock. Yeah.
It's funk rock.
I got well, you were talking about Janelle Monáe. I got a lot of Janelle Monáe vibes from this album.
Are we taking the pen off?
That's
are we going
where
back to the Electric Lady?
I felt like
okay, let's do it.
Yeah, I felt like that I felt like there was some influence there, or maybe
for Emily's De-Evolution or for
Yeah.
Radio Music Society.
No, Emily's, which is her middle name, by the way.
Yeah. I said that in the intro. Yep.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
I'm the resident fact checker.
Shit hits the fan if it's not perfect, because every single show is
that's
perfect,
totally true.
and we never go on tangents, and we never ever talk about Jimmy Buffett.
Seriously, I don't.
You know what's funny is I hope if someone is listening to us for the very first time, and they really haven't heard the episodes, I urge you to do a little Easter egg hunting for the phrase Jimmy
let's
Buffett.
just say this: if you let's hold on. Let's say that if you are a person, yes,
okay, or are you talking to the audience members right now?
Would be called something like, I don't know, like a parrot head.
Okay, parrot head, I'm with you.
Turn it off and don't listen to the other stuff. Okay. Because I have heard
talk to me.
I not that I know, but I have heard that Novo has said some pretty ugly, disparaging things about Jimmy Buffett on this.
Check out the other episodes, because
I've said only
we got beef. We got beef. Theodore Buck
on a cheeseburger in paradise.
Cheeseburger. Well, that was good.
God,
that was good.
Song.
This shit writes itself.
I can't tell him. I can't. He's a terrible musician.
Now
that guy has rode too much on his
horse,
songs
his high horse,
that all sound the same. And God bless him.
All right, Buck. All right,
what?
I'm gonna spray him. I'm gonna spray him like a cat. Calm down. Let's do a Novo pullback. Let's pull back to Esperanza Spalding. We don't really mean that. We love you, Mr. Parrothead, man. It's okay. Listen to what you want to listen to.
Come on, Monday's the only good song I ever had.
But before we ever do an episode on just Jimmy Buffett, we need to finish this one. So T-Buck, tell me what you thought of Emily's De-Evolution.
Interesting. Here's what I say. I know a lot of people like this song.
Yeah.
I am always for artists trying new things and doing new stuff. And I think I've said this on other podcasts. Spread your wings and try. Do other things
and fly.
Fly. It just not my favorite. That's all I have to say. I think it's a perfectly fine.
This is why I love this our show. I couldn't disagree more. I think this is one of her standouts. I think this is an incredible standout. It was for all you deep divers. I know you like us name dropping. It was co-produced by Tony Visconti.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows that name, that is David Bowie's longtime collaborator. Check out our episode on David Bowie, because and here's the thing. I knew we actually didn't talk about the producers, because we wanted to focus on just David Bowie and David Bowie's work and his art, obviously. And we didn't talk about guys like Tony Visconti or fucking Brian Eno, which is a huge influence and producer during his days. But I think we do that because eventually they'll probably get their own episodes. Point is that again, she's spreading her wings.
Yeah.
She's working with these different producers and collaborators, and she's evolving. She's no pun intended with the name of the album, and she's trying new things. Mm-hmm. Does it always work in someone like T-Buck's opinion? No, I thought it really worked. It was fun. It was a lot of energy. It still had that groove. There's something about her writing that just fucking grooves, man.
Yeah.
You want to, You want to nod your head, you want to move your body, you want to dance to her work, man.
Yeah,
Even when it's jazzy.
Let me clarify. It's not. I don't hate the album. Like,
Oh,
it's
no. I know you didn't like it. It's just not your favorite.
it's just not my favorite Esperanza Spalding album. I think there's a lot of great. Again, it's really creative. There's a lot of great things that she does in this album that are really impressive. Like you said, it's a different sound for her. Veers towards kind of rock or art rock rather. I think would probably be in some maybe.
I
some
feel like I heard
fusion.
we did an episode on Saint Vincent, and just like you, when you were talking about Janelle Monáe, that kind of influence, I feel like I heard there was definitely a song or two where there was an intersection of Saint Vincent style and Esperanza Spalding's. Since she was going into rock territory, or art rock, as you put it. So
so I mean, there's definitely I think the title track on, or not the title, excuse me, the first track on here, automatically know this is not your
typical
20-year-old self Esperanza Spalding album, but I think it definitely takes a different direction. I like it. It just again, it's not my favorite one first.
I get you. I am curious I'm excited to talk about the next one just because of the process of making it, but I'm curious if you actually got a chance to listen to any of it. So in 2017, she made an album called Exposure, and this was essentially an experiment type of album. So what she did was she created an album from start to finish in 77 hours, and she released only 7,777. I see a trend there. Limited edition prints. I found some YouTube stuff, but I really couldn't find any. It's not on streaming sites, or it's not on streaming platforms like Spotify. I couldn't find a ton of work from this era. Did you find anything, Buck?
Not really. I remember this.
So we need one of these goddamn prints now. Someone send us. We need a PO box because I want free shit. So send us Exposure or Esperanza Spalding if you're listening right now. If you have an extra print, we'd like one.
No. I remember this. I remember this coming out. And I think I want to say I remember listening to some of it, but I couldn't find a lot.
Okay, so we will. We needed to talk about it because it was part of her career, and we'll continue to go into the history. I mean, I think it's very important to talk about the fact that around this time, she was appointed a professor of the practice of music at fucking Harvard. Incredibly impressive again.
Harvard.
And she hasn't even broken 40 yet. I mean, she's doing all this and such a young. And such a, not a short time, but at such a young age. And then she put out another LP. What she did was 2018's 12 Little Spells. And this one peaked at #1, finally, on the Billboard's top jazz albums.
Yeah. And this is another one that's going back to jazz, but still very experimental.
Very her. Yeah.
Very her.
Yeah. You'll hear all of her kind of songwriting style in this album.
Yeah. Love it. And I think a lot of people did as well, especially the old Grammys.
The jazz. Yep. She got nominated for 2 and won another one. God, quit it.
Stop it.
I want to win one.
Now you're just showing
Spalding.
off.
Yeah. Jeez.
Jeesh.
Can't even
take you anywhere now.
That's why we don't have nice things.
This is why we don't.
So each song was called a spell, and each spell correlates to a body part. So it was a little bit of an art jazz album. And the Grammy that she won was for best jazz vocal album again.
Yeah, I think there was a critic that said this is not dinner jazz music.
This is not background at a restaurant.
It's not background. It's not with your bougie friends.
Oh, that reminds me that your bougie friends. That reminds me to talk about the fact that I have always hated what jazz music on a popular music scale or level has become. No. I was going to say that, a lot of people listen to traditional jazz or even contemporary jazz, and they think of elevator music. And it just breaks my heart.
I think jazz kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, they just kind of they lump everything into one category. So if they hear any kind of jazz, they're like, "Oh, you like elevator music?" And I assure you, anybody out there that feels that way, give it a real chance. And I think Esperanza Spalding is a perfect place to start.
Like,
and you will be transported
yeah,
to
don't.
another psychological world and land.
Yeah, I mean, jazz does get a really bad rep because I think there's a lot of. I mean, it's like any music. There is a lot of, say, very bland jazz out there. But look back at guys like Chet Baker,
Woo!
Thelonious Monk,
Woo!
newer guys today, Kamasi Washington.
And I got another segue for you,
Yeah.
Mr. Wayne Shorter, because
Ooh, yeah.
when I was doing the research for this episode, she is going to be putting out some new work with him.
No, really?
And it's an operatic work titled
Okay.
Iphigenia. Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting indeed.
Yeah.
So let's bring it on home, Mr. Theodore Buck. Tell us why, when damn things matter, and we definitely land on Miss Esperanza Spalding. Tell us why she matters, man.
I think the big thing is when we think about jazz and females in jazz, it's normally associated with vocalists. There's not too many really famous now. Don't trust me on this. There's you can name a lot of people. Dorothy Ashby comes straight to mind, where she brought in the harp into jazz and played that a lot, which was really interesting. But not a lot of there are female musicians, instrumentalists that do play jazz, but they don't also sing as well sometimes. So I think it's really important because she's kind of bringing that in, and you don't really see a lot of
she's
female bassists.
well-rounded.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of female bassists, so she's well-rounded. She's definitely a music prodigy.
Even though she hates that, but
though she hates that,
let's be honest.
She took a long break and was
a prodigy.
Yeah, she was playing, I think, as part of another band for a while, just kind of in the background. But look, I mean, when you have people like this, you should be really thankful that you're living in a time you can actually witness these creative geniuses,
and it's easily digestible, findable, with things like YouTube and Spotify and whatever platform you listen to music. It's so easy. Back in our day, now I sound old saying it that way, but we had to do some digging, and now you have to do a lot more digging to find the good stuff.
Yeah,
but
I think we've talked about like top 40
Link.
music right now has like the least amount of overturn that it's ever had.
What do you mean?
So like, I think it's still in the top 10, but there was a song, maybe it was a Bruno Mars song. No, I'm sorry, The Weeknd. His song was basically like the number one hit for almost a year. I mean,
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So like back in the day, you had a lot of more
not
overturn,
turnover.
turnover.
These, you're saying that
I lived through a tornado this afternoon. Come on.
Yeah, he barely made it alive.
I barely made it alive.
You can hear it in his voice.
It was a weak tornado. It wasn't too bad.
His point is that yes, sometimes things will kind of take over the real estate, right?
Yep.
It just kind of stays in its position and doesn't allow a lot of people to find the light.
And now, I mean, again, you have so many resources now, and you have these streaming platforms with infinite resources, or nearly infinite. Again, sometimes when you have too much, it makes it even harder. So check her out. If you don't like her, I'm sorry. If you do end up really loving her, or maybe you're already a fan, then I'm happy for you. But we definitely need to. I know.
What was that?
I don't know. But
so she is, but she's so. In conclusion, she is what, a musician for the ages, right?
Oh yeah.
I think she's another one on our long running list of. I don't think there's anyone quite like her, and nothing that I've seen before her, and honestly, I doubt there's going to be anything after her that's quite like her.
She is an original
prodigy, and something you should absolutely check out.
You know who else is original?
Jimmy Buffett.
Miles. He just walked right behind you, and
oh, my dog.
Yeah,
I have a dog named Miles Davis. Yeah. And
just kind of came in, looked at you, was like, all right, he's busy, and then turned around and headed back.
It is a jazz episode, so that's fitting. Miles Davis.
It was very funny. He just kind of looked at you. It was like, all right, yeah. He's doing something.
Dad's busy. I
Dad's
gotta go
busy.
back
Gonna
to
go
the other
find
room.
mom.
Well, there you have it, guys. The amazing history, legacy, and career of one Esperanza Spalding. And what's even better is she's still in the middle of it, still making music. And I think there's still a lot to come. So thank you guys so much for listening. But before we go, of course, we got a little more for you, a little icing on the cake, a little cherry on top with what we like to call the gem of the week. If you don't know what the gem of the week is, it's essentially something we love to talk about in our shows here, but it doesn't quite fit into the scheme of the episode, but we want to talk about it nonetheless. I always give the floor, I usually take the floor first, but I have a couple. I feel like I have a couple. Should I go first, or do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm having some technical difficulties, so you just keep
going. Technical
difficulties.
Some of that country twang come out in his technical diff. Okay, so I'll take the floor. So I have a few things. I think in the jazz world, I always like to talk about Medeski, Barton, and Wood. This is definitely not a new cut. It's more of a deep cut. If you've never checked out Medeski, Martin, and Wood, they have an incredible catalog, and their music is absolutely spellbinding. It's a jazz trio. Sometimes they'll bring in other musicians for special guests. It's usually instrumental only. They don't do traditional singer-songwriter type of structure, so there's not going to be any lyrics, but you're going to your ears are going to be happy with a lot of art, jazz, experimental stuff, avant-garde, you fucking name it. You're going to be happy when you listen to it. The other side of the puzzle is I was trying to think of something that I got into just recently that I wanted to talk about, because someone was like, ooh, I wanted to check that out. Something a little more contemporary. So, and it is musical. I'm a big lover of comedy, and I watched Bo Burnham's Netflix special called Inside, and it's essentially a musical comedy show, and he does everything. It's pretty much him in a room, and he did literally everything. He wrote the songs, he produced them, he mixed them, and then he filmed them, he did the editing, and it is just a scathing, sharp, comedic look at our last year in a pandemic. And he does a good job of becoming, there's a thin line between what you think is character and really him, and he becomes kind of the descent into madness type of character, like the brooding artist that is at his wit's end, at the end of the line, if you will. And you don't always really know where Bo Burnham, the character, begins, and or where him truly being sad or depressed about the last year ends and him just being a character begins, or vice versa. But it definitely encapsulates what I think we all went through in a 1 hour special or hour and a half special, whatever it is. I definitely, when I got done with it, I felt like that perfectly embodies how literally everyone has felt in the last year.
No, I've heard really good things about that, so I'm going to have to check it out. I actually struggled a bit with this.
Let's talk it out. This is like therapy.
It's hard to live up to your standards when we do these.
God damn it, Buck! You better be perfect because every single show.
I know a lot of things that were like popping up in my head where I don't think they're really gems. They're maybe like revisits. So maybe that's what it is.
I did a revisit with Medeski, Martin, Wood. To give us a revisit. Now I'm curious.
Now I'm doing a revisit, and you're never going to guess it. Would you like a guess?
Give me a hint.
Harp.
Oh God, no.
I actually already said her name.
Yeah, I remind us. I lost.
All right. Well, when I was thinking about when I was listening to Esperanza Spalding, I started going back and thinking about other great jazz instrumentalists, and one that I stumbled upon actually a long time ago. I was reading something about, actually Questlove brought her up, but Dorothy Ashby. She was a jazz harpist, and she had one of her say quintessential albums is
say the name real clear one more time so we can burn it in our memories.
Dorothy Ashby.
Dorothy.
I'm
Ashby.
saying Dorothy, okay, like they do in The Wizard of Oz.
Dorothy.
My mid-Atlantic accent.
I feel like that's like South Park's Canadian accent.
Dorothy. What's What's this all about? Um,
Go ahead.
I actually said that to a Canadian girl one time. I was like, "You say a boot," and she got really upset about it. The album I was recommending was her. I think this is one of her quintessentials, as Afro Harping. Came out in 1968. Check it out. It's pretty cool. It's a soul jazz album, and there's been stuff that's been sampled a lot from a lot of her stuff in hip hop. So it's always fun too when you go back and through a lot of these old jazz or soul or funk albums. You hear a lot of that. I've heard this riff or something like that before. So,
or they sample it or something.
when they sample, yeah.
Okay, well, perfect. Thank you, Buck. As always, he does end up giving us Dorothy. He ends up giving us a very thoughtful gem. We appreciate you guys so much for listening. If you like that, of course, you can check us out at all of our socials. That's at @Novo_Day, and day is spelled DE, and at Novo Day Media. You can, of course, check out some of our stuff at novodayproductions.com. There you'll find things like Post Meridium, Adulteration, and the Entropy Sessions, both in paperback or as an audiobook. We hope you enjoy it. And until next time, be good to each other. And as always, good luck and Godspeed. We love you.
Art of the Beholder is brought to you by Novo Day Productions. Created and hosted by Novo Day and the Novo Day Collective. Facebook.com/Novo Day Media, at Novo Day Media on Twitter and Instagram. Music by A Company. Facebook.com/ACOMusic123. ACO on Spotify. Logo design by Tom Justice, JESTUS, of thejusticecompany.com. And executively produced by Clayton Anderson. All rights reserved.